He has a black belt and is not afraid to show it. This is Sega Masters. Today we're looking at the other North American cartridge release for the Master System in November 1986, Black Belt. And if the name or the guy in the karate gi on the title screen hadn't already tipped you off, it's a martial arts themed beat 'em up. The second such title to grace the Master System in the US to this point, though this one has a more interesting backstory behind it. The martial artist in question is Ricky, who sets out to rescue his girl from the clutches of a band of ruffians led by his supposedly evil rival Wong. Not surprisingly, Ricky's mission involves marching through 6 stages and taking out endless waves of Wong's followers armed only with his fists and feet, culminating in a showdown with the man himself. If you feel this is very reminiscent of the classic Nintendo cartridge Kung Fu, you're not alone. Outside of Super Mario Bros., the home version of IRAM's influential coin-op hit Kung Fu Master was one of the more popular titles in NES's North American launch lineup, going on to become something of a cult favorite. In its competition for the North American video game crown, Sega felt the need for any opportunity to show how their platform could outdo the offerings found on Nintendo's console, and this cart was not excluded. Back in episode 4, we covered Sega's first attempt at a belt scroller for their console, a home conversion of the coin-op title My Hero, which was released on a Sega card. And as you can tell from this footage, it didn't go well at all, to say the least. Sega quickly decided a mulligan was in order, this time a console exclusive, and none other than future Sega superstar Yuji Naka, who previously programmed F-16 Fighting Falcon, helmed the second attempt for the Mark III. They even hoped to attract a few console buyers in Japan by crafting as a tie-in to a popular long-running manga and anime series, Hokuto no Ken, eventually known in the West as Fist of the North Star. Mark III gamers got to take control of the series' protagonist, Kenshiro, and helped him do what he did best, travel through a post-apocalyptic wasteland while using his fists and feet to cause anybody who crosses his path to explode into pieces, though the fatalities in this cartridge are significantly toned down compared to the anime. Reportedly, Sega's Hokuto no Ken actually sold pretty well in Japan, and was admittedly one of the better games based on that property, though it wasn't hard to accomplish if you've seen the other tie-ins on the various consoles. Regardless, Sega decided to bring this card to the US as part of the Master System's early lineup, hoping to show North American gamers their console can in fact offer good beat-em-ups along the lines of Nintendo's Kung Fu, only better. As Hokuto no Ken was endlessly outknown outside of Japan at the time, Sega felt the need to scrub all references to the anime from the game, transforming it into something more generic for the Western audience. Yet the Japanese box art depicting the show's cast was replaced with what can only be described as one of the laziest covers ever. Just one example of how the Master System's struggles in the US market can't entirely be blamed on Nintendo. Black Belt's gameplay is mostly unchanged from the original Mark III version, and just about follows the standard pattern used by most 1980s beat-em-ups, while adding a few of its own tweaks to the formula. A sub-boss periodically appears to impede your progress and requires a few hits to dispatch. Power-ups occasionally fly across the screen in the air as well, which can be collected with a high jump, such as Japanese foodstuffs to restore your health. Kanji symbols can also be snagged to gain temporary invincibility. While pulling off the high jumps to snag these icons can take a bit of practice, the controls are responsive and easy to use for the most part, and busting out your small selection of punches and kicks is not a problem. The first thing that stands out about Black Belt, compared to its Nintendo counterpart, are its visuals, starting with the various sprites that can seem a little on the small side, but still sport some good detail and animation, and they certainly trump the characters found in Kung Fu. Upon reaching the end of the level, you're greeted by a boss who challenges you to one-on-one combat, not unlike an early version of Capcom's later Street Fighter series. And these battles are presented in a nice close-up view with some rather large impressive sprites. Obviously you can't proceed with your quest until these brutes are out of your way, however you can't just simply punch and kick them into oblivion. You need to quickly discern your foe's patterns and weaknesses and act accordingly if you want any help to successfully deplete their energy meter. Otherwise their strikes won't really be as effective, and you can easily find yourself as the one face down on the ground defeated. Should you prevail, you get to watch as Ricky unleashes a flurry of blows to truly finish his foe off before triumphantly marching on his way, at which point you're awarded your bonus points. Then it's off to the next locale to continue your crusade, and the cartridge follows this pattern for 4 more stages, culminating with the final confrontation with Wong that makes up the last level. Also unlike Kung Fu, which takes place entirely in a single palace setting that can get repetitive to look at, Black Belt offers a small variety of landscapes to punch and kick through, with some parallax scrolling added in to produce a nice 3D effect. Gameplay-wise, Black Belt doesn't really do anything too radically different from Kung Fu or other similar brawlers of this era, yet still plays well for what it is and is certainly a vast improvement over My Hero. Everything moves at a smooth, brisk pace, and though a few frustrating moments can pop up here and there, the difficulty is mostly manageable, especially with the health-restoring power-ups showing up frequently to keep you going. The sub-bosses can be a tad tricky to deal with, but also serve their purpose in breaking up the monotony of taking out the same underlings over and over. You also earn extra lives upon reaching certain score thresholds, though this cartridge doesn't offer any continues. A game over forces you to start back at stage 1. The action is also backed up by a small selection of background tunes. While each of the stages uses the same song, as do the boss battles, they never get repetitive or annoying and can even be a little catchy. The sound effects, as usual, are just there and nothing special. The boss battles may not seem very impressive nowadays, but were rather innovative for their time. They even contain a small layer of depth to them since you need to actually plan your attack, though the difficulty can seem a little inconsistent among them. Some of these brutes can be taken out somewhat easily, others may require a few tries to conquer. Thankfully, should you perish during these battles, you start right back there to make another attempt. In conclusion, if you can get past the shockingly low-effort box sort, Black Belt proves to be one of the highlights of the early Master System lineup with its well-done street fighting action that may frustrate you at times, but is still engaging enough to keep you playing and can be conquered with enough practice. Combined with some vibrant visuals, this cartridge does make a convincing argument of how Sega's console can indeed offer superior versions of similar exercises on the NES. It may seem a little dated compared to the beat-em-ups that have come along over the following years, and some 8-bit brawling fans may understandably still prefer Kung Fu, but in the end Black Belt is still a good choice to waste a few minutes. Amazingly, this wouldn't be the last time Sega scrubbed a Hokuto no Ken tie-in for one of their consoles in the Western market, but that's a story for another day.